Hey everybody, it's Eddie J on Crypto for GrowMyBag.tv. Hope you're having a good one. What's good, what's good, what's good? So we've got a lot going on this morning. We had a lot going on last night. We had a lot going on yesterday. It's very, very newsy. Now, when I look at things right now, I'm kind of thinking that the market is kind of hot. I mean, you could call me wrong, but I mean, we've got Bitcoin that keeps bouncing, has bounced up about $2,000 to about the 105, 106 area when it was down playing at the 103, 104 area. Are those big moves? No, but it does show that we're creeping toward a new all-time high. Could that happen this week? Yeah, it really could happen this week. It depends on how many people are gonna do profit taking this week because they saw a little bit of a bounce. We'll see. There's a lot of news out there. The Genius Act seems to have made it to the next level. People are expecting it to pass, basically to pass inspection and then get signed by the president. We'll see what happens. I think a lot of people are clamoring for things that are within the Genius Act. I'm gonna have to download that and analyze it to see what's actually in there that could make it easier or harder for companies to actually do business. Something else that came up, World Liberty Financial co-founder Chase Harrow seems to be facing a lawsuit over failing to reimburse clients from a $2.5 million hack at Doe Finance in 2024. It's only a year ago. It's only last year. Investors receiving nearly worthless tokens instead of full recovery. Now, that says a lot. To me, that says a lot. That says a hell of a lot, right? I've never trusted that company. I'm not going to trust that company. They do some shady things in my humble opinion. I think it's an illegal revenue stream for the current regime. So I'm not feeling anything about that company, and they know fully well what they're doing, right? They know fully well what they're doing, and that troubles me. It troubles me. We're chasing after people that we call bad actors, but I'm just saying. Charles Hoskinson denies allegations that $318 million ADA was misappropriated by Cardano's IOG. Citing an upcoming audit and clarifying that unredeemed ADA vouchers were largely claimed or donated, with Emergo and the Cardano Foundation supporting the transparency. I don't agree with the allegations at all. What I do agree with is that you're talking about a guy who spent the whole span of this project being above board, demonstrating transparency, and trying to make sure that it becomes the most decentralized project in the space. You're gonna have to do a lot more than make allegations for me to believe anything else. I don't like a lot of the things that he speaks about personally, but that does not negate the fact that this guy is, dedicated to Cardano. If he wanted to become rich and steal money, he would have done that a long time ago. He's had more than enough opportunity. People need to cut that out. We need to not stop sullying people's names just because, we don't like them or we don't like what they did, or just because we have nothing else to freaking do. You're going to be hard pressed to make me think that Charles Hoskinson has done anything wrong. So we'll leave it at that. We'll leave that topic there. The Genius Act, as I just said, I believe that it could possibly pass the Senate. You had 16 Democrats join Republicans in a previous vote, and it seems to be doing just fine. We'll see. Like I said, I'm going to have to analyze that bill. USDC volume surged $219 billion, doubling since January due to their Binance partnership. That's huge. American company, Binance, CZ. I think there's a lot of story right there. But yeah, you could tell that it's going to go up. If you're in bed with Binance, you're going to do well. You really are. Speaking about that, you have Binance Alpha that's now talking about, getting you listings on up and coming projects before, everybody knows, like small, minuscule things. Everybody's always asking about, where can I find the next 100X? Where can I find the next 1000X? I think that's the whole point of Binance Alpha. I believe that's the whole point of Binance Alpha. So if you want to do your own research, know your entries and exits, and absolutely invest deliberately, you might want to, research Binance Alpha. No, they do not pay me. No, they're not an advertiser, although they should be. Binance, if you're listening, give me a call. I'd love to help you out. So there are things like that are going on that I actually like. The SEC has delayed again 5 more Solana ETFs. By who is it? Fidelity, BlackRock. They don't care. So the odds for getting a decision in July, they're saying the odds are like 18%, with December being like 80 or something like that. So there's supposedly an action going on within the SEC led by Paul Atkins. Excuse me. That's going to come out with a comprehensive guide around crypto. And the story is that's why everything's taking so long, because they want to build that out and then do all of the approvals or denials. We shall see. I'm dying to find out what that is. But, Paul Atkins has been talking about that kind of a thing for a while. I'd like to understand it. So those are going to be the guidelines. I'd like to see, like, what part of those guidelines did they go back to Congress and say, you need to pass this, make these laws? That's what I'd like to see, because with every regime is going to come a change in those guidelines, right? And we don't need that kind of volatility in any financial system. So yeah, I'm wondering how that's all going to work out. So if somebody can give me some clarity on that, it would be greatly appreciated. Then you've got Genesis. Remember that whole Genesis DCG digital currency group? So Genesis DCG Gemini lawsuit. Well, now Genesis is suing DCG, their parent company, and Barry Silbert. They're seeking $3.1 billion after losing all that money because of that fiasco. And they're alleging fraud, mismanagement, and misleading investors. That's not small. And that collapse only happened in 2022. Remember that? Yeah. So that's not a small thing. It's not a small thing. So it's a big deal that a child business sues its parent company. And Barry Silbert's got a lot of woes going on right now. Just saying that's not small. That's not small. Abraxas Capital invested $837 million in Ethereum, reallocating some of its money from Bitcoin to do it. Now, I find that to be quite interesting. I find that one to be very, very, very interesting. Why? Because it says that they recognize that Bitcoin is a beast and you want to be invested in Bitcoin. But if you're looking for, let me start over. I invest in Bitcoin because I have specific things that I want to do, right? But when I want to make money, I'm invested in other things. People probably won't understand that, and they're thinking, well, Bitcoin always makes money. Bitcoin doesn't make the multiple that other coins make. Everybody's thinking that, for example, everybody's thinking that Ethereum is going to make a new all-time high in this cycle, if you will. For that to be true, it basically need to double. Do you see where this is going? Is Bitcoin going to double? Is Bitcoin going to go from $105 to $200,000? The way we're pretty sure Ethereum can and will. No, I don't think so. And then go down the list. Just take the top 50 coins on CoinMarketCap. Take the top 50 altcoins. Forget about the wraps and all that stuff. The top 50 altcoins, right? And do this, perform the same math. Now do you see? Now you start to realize, wow, that's not small. That's actually pretty big. That's actually a pretty big move. So I like that move by that firm. Now, would I have pulled out of Bitcoin? I don't know that I would have sold my Bitcoin to make that move. I would have found other money. But if I had to, I would have pulled some out of Bitcoin. Just saying. And then there's the Nakamoto project that says that 80% of the respondents to their survey say that they would like a portion of the U.S. gold reserve to be used for Bitcoin. Now, what's funny is that the bulk of the people in the United States don't have anything to do with Bitcoin or crypto. So with that number being so high, did you only talk to people that are involved in crypto? Because I would like to see a more robust survey happen, right? One that includes people that are not involved in crypto. The average US citizen. I mean, the report has some value, even if it's just people that are involved in crypto, but it would have far more value if you're looking at everybody. Like, do they understand what that means? Do they understand what that means? Just saying, it's an idea. You might want to do that. There's another report out that Pump.Funds 50 to 80%. The report alleges that 50 to 80% of Pump.Funds trade volume, is nothing more than bots. Nothing more than bots. Which means that you have a bunch of people that are running a bunch of bots, and you have a bunch of people that are feeding off of those bots, that are being manipulated by the false volume created by those bots. I would not be pleased about that if I were you. I'd be looking at that and saying to myself, yeah, that's not what I want to do for Christmas. We don't want to do that. That's horrible. That is horrible. So just saying, we should be paying attention to that. I told you guys before, we have GMB TV as a token. We just wanted to preserve the name, and we know we're going to be using it later on, but we wanted to hold it so that everybody knew that that's actually us and not somebody else. And they were like, oh, you should use a bot and that'll make it go up in price and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, that'll make us look fake. And I point to this, and this is like the second or third report that I'm bringing to you about this. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. Then you have CoinDCX buying BitOasis, right? And because they want to expand in the MENA region, which is, Middle East, North Africa. And they're aiming for 30% revenue growth in that region. Why are they doing this? Because they're based in India, and India's got some crazy laws. You could almost say that India as a government is anti-crypto. So I'm just saying. You know what's hilarious is that so the government seems to be anti-crypto, but the people aren't. The people are about it. They really, really are. So I sit back and I just kind of go, yeah, that's something I want to pay attention to. Something else that everybody should be paying attention to is all those rich regions, Bahrain, Dubai, UAE. You should be paying attention to those regions. They're spending a lot of time, a lot of money to become a hub for crypto. Pay attention, folks. Pay attention. I mean, think about what's going on. People are crying about, gas prices and stuff like that. But we're slowly inching toward, an EV world, an electric vehicle world. The more electric vehicles, the more alternative energy, solar, wind, even water, the less demand for oil. So they've got to find other revenue streams. And there's Stitch. He's not going to get on camera, though. He's just going to roll around near my desk. And that I find to be interesting that you're having such expansion, such deals come out of the Middle East, North America area. So I really am paying attention to that. Another area, big area that I told you I'm paying attention to is Southeast Asia. Malaysia, Singapore, India, just around that region. I'm just paying attention to everything that's going on. All trying to become big hubs in the crypto space. And that kind of says that there's going to be, competition for anything that the US wants to do. Don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it. What else do we have? So I made a statement the other day that we could possibly see robots and AI take over in the medical space. And somebody came at me and said, you don't know anything about, the medical space and everything that goes on there. And I sit back and I say to myself, you're using robotics right now. Doctors are using robotics right now to perform surgeries. It's only a matter of time before those robots learn from all of those surgeries and AI be able to manage a surgery. I don't know why that flips people out. I'm not coming to you with craziness. I'm coming to you with facts. Go look up the Mayo Clinic. Go look up all these places that are actually doing research on just that. I understand the complexities. I'm not in that space. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse, but I understand the complexities of a surgery, what it takes to do those kinds of things. I really do get it. Yes, I have family that are in the space. But that doesn't negate the fact that you have technology companies that are moving in that direction. How long do you think it's going to be? How long do you think it's going to be? Doctors are using tiny little robots to make incisions and perform surgeries and everything else. A robot with the right kind of camera can actually see things more than a doctor can. Be more precise. So like I said, I'm not looking forward to losing doctors and nurses or anything else like that. But I'm saying that I don't think that there are too many professions in the world that won't get touched by AI and automation. Robots being a part of automation. So I understand what you're saying. I understand the argument. I totally get it. But these are just facts that are out there. Go look it up. I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news, but I think will there always be a place for a doctor? Yeah, sure. Will there always be a place for an accountant? Not really. And in the future, will there always be a place for a doctor? There's the question. And I got into a conversation with somebody the other day, and I was like, and I'm into technology big time. And I said, yeah, we'll always need doctors. And they were like, why? I said, because one day the lights will go out. One day the lights will go out. And that's when everybody will lose their minds. So knowing how to do things is a big deal. I go ask the average kid, the average child, do they know how to change a tire? Most of them don't. There's an app for that. Somebody will come and change it for me. Somebody else knows how to do that. I know how to do other things. I just sit there and I look at these advancements in technology that make it easier, and it just bugs me out that there are things that we choose not to learn. How many kids know how to write cursive? People are like, oh, you don't need that. Really? Huh. A lot of people out there don't know how to drive stick shift. They don't understand what that means. Really? Huh. I'm just saying that we can't just crawl in a hole and hide from technology. That's not the way it works. We're going to have to understand it. We're going to have to embrace it. We're going to have to use it to the best of our abilities. It doesn't mean that we have to go away. It means that doctors and nurses out there are going to have to step up their game. That's really what I'm talking about. Good morning, Lex Luthor. So yeah, I look at things and I kind of go, the world is changing, and those that are smart will change with it. Use it to their best advantage. Doctors, nurses, everybody is just going to have to step up their game. Is what it is. Right now, doctors are using robotics. Pretty soon, robotics won't need to have doctors use them. That's a natural progression. I don't know why that freaks people out. It bugs people out to think that farmers use robots. Yeah. Literally use robots because it's cheaper to have a robot run 24/7 doing whatever it needs to be done on the land than it does to have people. We're moving in this direction. Does everything get replaced? No. But do a lot of things get replaced? Yes. So when you think about universal basic income, now you start to understand why that's going to become more and more and more of a hot topic. Yeah, things are changing and it's crazy. It really is crazy. Right? People are talking about how, and I'm talking about this because it affects our bags. So in Spain, yeah, they're embracing AI generated movies, while SAG-AFTRA is suing Epic Games for using AI for voiceovers. And not just using AI for voiceovers, but using AI for voiceovers and not telling them that they're going to do so. How's that for nuts? Things are changing and it's crazy about how they're changing. Lex Luthor says, I was saying to a friend today, if Optimus is of similar quality as the cars, we will need a lot of people to service them. Sort of. Sounds funny, but sort of. Some of these cars, the only moving part in the cars are gonna be the wheels, the steering wheel and the four wheels. What is there to fix? You just take it out and replace it. Yeah, self-service robots. Like, everybody thinks this is a joke, and I'm just like, how come you people don't read magazines? How come you don't read books? You don't read research? Do your own research, know your entries and exits, and absolutely invest deliberately. So I've had people, and not people that hate me or anything like that. We're just having a debate. I love that. They're just disagreeing with what I'm saying, and I'm coming back with more. But yeah, we're going to have to take a look at how these things work. Moving toward electric for almost everything, coming up with easier ways to generate electricity. Energy is a big deal. It really, really is. But you're already seeing the effects of moving away from electricity, right? And then when you look at AI and automation and all that other good stuff, if I can produce enough energy, I can have these robots run. And some of these robots, have you seen some of these systems out there? Watch Star Wars. Watch all these movies where robots are doing stuff. Pay attention. Do you really think you're that far off? It amazes me that people don't do the research that they should to see what's coming in the future. Best example, when we came out with the transistor radio, it was monotone, but everybody loved it because at least you got the radio. And then Sony came out with the Walkman. Sony already knew what their roadmap was. You understand? We went from the regular Walkman radio to a radio and cassette, right? When they came out with the Walkman, it was stereo. So you got the full effect of the sound. And then they already knew about the Discman. And once they came out with the Discman, they already knew that everything was moving toward digital. So I don't need to store that on a disc. I can store it on a thumb drive. I can take the pieces out of a thumb drive and put it into what? A smaller Walkman. An iPod, if you will. Just look at what's out there. I made the mention before that, the Dick Tracy watch is real. If you can imagine it, you can create it, in my humble opinion. So just saying. A lot of news out there. Start paying attention. Start reading. Anyway, you know what we should do? That's right. We should get into the news. Pull that, push this. There you go. Let's start down here. Yeah, basically flat on Dow futures. Same for S&P, same for NASDAQ. Not bad. I think it's going to be a good day. Do I think it's going to be a stupendous day? No, but I think it's going to be a good day. I've already heard that Home Depot came out with good numbers, and they supposedly, like the story says here, supposedly they won't be raising prices due to tariffs. Why? Because they've been making plans already. Before all of this actually happened, they had already been making plans. They were already moving. So just saying, companies are not pivoting. Some companies are having to pivot now, and other companies have had to change things. And I think that, Home Depot has changed how they do a lot of things based on quality of product, location of product, logistics, all that. And some companies make those changes, and they did, and they are. So yeah, pay attention. What else do we have? So we got their earnings rather. Palo Alto Networks, Keysight Technologies, Viking. You have a whole bunch of others that are coming out, but we're basically dying down on the financial reporting this week. What do we have today? Today we have Richmond Fed President, we have Boston Fed President, St. Louis, and the Federal Reserve Governor Adriana Kugler. They all have a bunch of Fed speak this week, right? Basically, you're going to get jobless claims. We're really not going to get that much in terms of numbers this week. But you get a lot of Fed speak. You get to understand where they're coming from. The Crypto Fear and Greed Index, like I said, went down from 74 to 71. So yeah, kind of a big deal. Why? Because we need to pay attention to what the market sentiment is. Just saying, I tell you to get used to the rhythm of a coin, the rhythm of a project is the same way I tell you to get used to the rhythm of the markets. I'm just saying, there are practices that you can use. Now we're going back from, 117 to $123.786 billion in total value locked. That's good stuff. That really is good stuff. And I just want to see the volumes. I want to see the volumes. So give it a moment. It's thinking. We'll get there. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. That little uptick there. And we keep seeing that go up. Not bad. Not bad at all. We've got Bitcoin right now just a hair above 105. Look at that. Do you see how high that went? Our peak was right there, about 107, right here, about 107. But we're still moving sideways within this band. But notice how we're moving sideways within that band, but we keep popping up a little bit, keep poking our heads up a little bit, but not that far away from no new all-time high for Bitcoin. I'm telling you, we're eking up. We're stair-stepping up. This was a long stair step, then we went up. This is a long stair step, then we went up. It seems to be a longer stair step. I think we're going to go up. I'm just saying. Hitting 120, I think, is going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen overnight unless we have a big catalyst. And we're not going to get any big catalyst anytime soon. There's nothing going on in June, really. For the rest of the month in June, I don't think there's anything that we can really hang our hat on that, something's going to happen. Next month, I don't think we're going to get a rate decrease. There are too many things going on. There's too much volatility in the market. Powell likes to use the word uncertainty. I call it chaos. Because we still haven't cut enough tariff deals. Notice how that's been quieted down. We need to cut tariff deals. And I'm not hearing about tariff deals being cut. Just saying. There are things that we need to be paying attention to, and that's some of them. Then you look at the big green board, and you're kind of like, but everything's so high. Why would I buy? Well, you'd buy because Doge is still at 22. Link is under 17. It's at 15.74. You've got XRP that's down. It's not at $3. ETH is not at the all-time high of 49, over 4,900. If ADA is not at $1. You see where I'm going with this? You see where I'm going with this? This is what I'm talking about. Right? And you look across the board and you're kind of like, oh, this is not so bad. There are things that are going on that we can see. Well, okay, we can see how we're making money. But again, I'm thinking those private talks between Circle and Ripple and Circle and Coinbase. Coinbase could win because they're there, but Ripple could win because they've got money. Ripple could win because they've got money. And Ripple could also win because Ripple could say, does an exchange really understand you? Does an exchange really understand what you can be doing with this coin? Are they really going to take up the mantle for making USDC more popular than USDT? They've got a lot that they can bring to the table. Do they have the resilience that we do? They're just an exchange. Do they have the resilience that we do? We took on the SEC and won. I'm just saying the Ripple case is strong. The Ripple case is mad strong. So I'm just saying we need to pay attention to that. We really, really do. I just want to take a look at what are the big losers. Pith Network is down. I don't know what Story is, and then that's it on the loser side. On the winner side, don't know what Kita is. Aave is up 18.8%. They've got a GMB X factor of 1.52. That's interesting to me. Pendle is up 11.35% with a GMB X factor of 0.72. Do I think they can make it, both of them? Yes. I think Aave's got a little bit way to go with 1.52, but do I think Aave is there? Yes, I do. AC Power, what's good? Let's see. Wow, this whole list is actually pretty good. Everybody on this list is up. Virtuals is up over 5%, 1.65 GMB X factor. Deep Book, I still need to do research on this one, but they're up 5.72% with a 0.86 GMB X factor. You see different meme coins in there like Turbo, Pancake Swap. You can see where they're doing things. A16 Maker is up 6.35% with a GMB X factor of 2.55. AI16Z is up 6.38% with a GMB X factor of 7.64. Yeah, I'm a little iffy on them. I don't know that they're going to make it. Jitto is up 6.92% with a GMB X factor of 2.07. BitTensor is up GMB X factor of 0.81. Yeah, I think BitTensor is going to do it. Let's see. I don't really pay attention to Caspa, but it's up 7.12% with a GMB X factor of 0.85. Not bad. Let's see. Curve DAO up 9% with a GMB X factor of 20.63. Do I think they're going to do it? No, I don't. But do I think money can be made from them? Yes, I do. Just saying, not everybody's going to hit an all-time high. That's just the way it is. But I believe in Aave. I have a little bit of Aave. I have a bag of that. Right? But just remember, you've got to do your own research. You've got to know your entries and exits, and you've got to absolutely invest deliberately. Do those three things in that order. You'll really help yourself. Don't believe me? Buy the book, The GMB3, The Art of Research, Timing, and Deliberate Wealth. See how it goes in that order. That's the idea. Anyway, everybody, this is Eddie J on Crypto for GrowMyBag.tv. Hope you like what I'm doing. If you do, smash the likes. Tell your friends about this community, because this is the only community where we can have debates in a safe space, learn from each other, teach each other, and grow our bags together. Because that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, that's all we need. As always, thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. And absolutely, thank you for your trust. I'm going to fight for that every day. I'm allowed to be wrong. I'm allowed to be right. But the one thing is, you're going to trust me to say what's on my mind. Everybody, have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.